Good afternoon, everybody. Let's go to the next session. I want to invite Hari Ganapathy, co-founder of PickYourTrail, to come to the stage and to take the next session. Just a little bit of introduction to Hari and also to this session. You would have heard during the last 2 days and everywhere else about disruption, right? Disruption is what happens when new technologies come into existing fields. And if you look at travel as a subject, and if you see how travel is done, there are airlines, there are hotels, and there are intermediaries who book travel. So if you want to look at, can you disrupt the travel industry? Hari's company is the answer to that question about how do you disrupt a very staid, well-established existing industry. So Hari has an MBA from IIM Bangalore. He spent a couple of his years doing marketing, and then the entrepreneur bug hit him. Hari has traveled to over 30 countries. He had his personal experiences on how does he do leisure travel and what kind of experiences do you have, putting all the components of travel together. And so he and his friend co-founded PickYourTrail. One of the things that Badri and I were discussing when we were planning the content of this conference was that if we want to talk about new emerging technologies, we need to have some of the younger generation who have done successful startups come and talk about how they're using these technologies to get to what they attempt to do with their customers and establish that business. So that is what this session is about. Hari runs a successful startup called PickYourTrail. I'm going to ask Hari to speak a little bit about PickYourTrail before he gets into the core of machine learning and everything that he does so that you all get the context. Hari, thank you for coming here.
Super.
And over to you.
Check. So thanks a lot, Mr. Ananta, for the warm introduction. Hello, guys. So I think most of it is covered. But quickly, I think we started PickYourTrail predominantly to solve a problem of vacations, right? So we said you look at flights, you look at hotels, they're very transactional purchases. But an international vacation is a very emotional purchase, right? So it's either a honeymoon or you're taking your kids out on their annual break, and these are mostly once or twice a year kind of purchases, right? So which means it's a lot of emotional angle to the overall buying behavior itself. And so I kind of aspire to do a PhD in consumer behavior someday in time. And I said, hey, it looks interesting. Travel is something very close to my heart. And how do you change consumer behavior? So basically, if you look at how you buy vacations right now, you either go to a travel agent who's right next door, who's been helping for the last 30 years, or you go to Make My Trip Yatra, and then you talk to them over phone, and then they customize, and then they it takes about 24, 48, 72 hours, right, to put together a plan. And we said, hey, is there something we could do on this space using tech? That's the fundamental premise. And obviously, travel was very close to heart, so we said, hey, worst case, we learn about the industry. That's the worst case outcome of this exercise. So we started in 2014, Jan 1st. It was a good New Year resolution. We quit our jobs. And then from there on, it's been a good story for ourselves. We're about 80-member bootstrap team. We're about 8 million USD annual run rate right now. And all of the tech that I will try and talk about is completely built in-house, right? So the way I've structured is, I don't know, so I think I was speaking to Rati ma'am outside and she said, hey, it's a lot of pictures. So I've kind of kept it quite flat in terms of the content, and I'd like it to be a lot more interactional because end of the day, I could just talk about it. It's very close to heart. I can just go on and on and on, but then there's no point of it if it's not interesting for all of you. So I'd love to you guys to keep it very engaging, whatever you want to kind of put your hands up, and then if you kind of, there are a couple of mics if you can pass on. I'd like to keep it that way so that I come here because I think there's a lot of learning from you guys as well because you're consumers. So you will end up looking at it that way, what is that I want, what can I buy? So that's predominantly my kind of, the way I look at this exercise. And I hope that I'll be able to kind of give some kind of insights of how we are using the technology, right? So that's a quick summary. And without further ado, I'll just kind of jump in. So sorry, before that, I think data is a new oil. I think everybody's kind of heard, said, and that's something we strongly believe in. I think as more and more data costs are getting cheaper, right? Your access to technology is much better. you have devices, you have voice search right now, right? I think, so in the US apparently close to about 33% of transactional Amazon shopping is on Alexa right now. So somebody is just saying, hey Alexa, buy me diapers, and then it's boom, it's in your house, right? So the overall experience of shopping, of e-com, everything is moving completely to an online space, and that's where data is truly the new oil in some sense. So this is a very simple, so some screenshots can be quite poor, so I'll kind of walk you through also. So I just opened up a browser and I said, if you can see, I don't know if it's got a point, yeah, hotels near Paris. That's all I did. I did a Google search. I just said hotels near Paris, right? This hotel came up first. Right? You're with me on this? Now same thing, hotels near Paris. This hotel comes up first. Right? It's a very different hotel, very different price point, right? It's about 1035 reviews, 3-star. This is about 683 reviews, again 3.5 star. Pricing is different. Nothing's changed. Both are Google searches. It's the same Google Maps. So you can look at the color schemes. Everything is the same, right? No, these are same. 14, 15. 14, 15. Right? Yeah. And then I go back and I'm able to get back the same hotel. But it says deal right now. So somewhere similar, right? So the first was Chrome I used, right? I was on Chrome, logged in. The second was Safari on incognito, right? The third was Safari logged in, non-incognito, right? So literally, whichever I use Chrome or I use Safari, right? Google believes that this is the best hotel for me, right? It believes, hey, Hari, for you, this is the best hotel. Why? I just tried digging in and saying, okay, let's figure out why. Why Google thinks. It talks about nice rooms, convenient location, polite staff. Now, if somebody says this to me, I'd love it. As a person, I like polite staff, I like a good location, and I want rooms, right? And then I dug deep, right? Families and couples and solo, similar, so it didn't make a difference to me, right? Then I again went one more step ahead and said, breakfast, beds are small, Wi-Fi doesn't work, great prices, quality service. So rooms aren't great, but the service and location is very good. Personally, if I had to pick a choice, I'd go with service and location any day, because I'm going out there to discover a place. I'm not going out there. My philosophy in travel is, once you shut your eyes, every room is the same, right? So for me, location and service is what matters the most. Maybe it uses my browser cookies, it uses my social media interactions, it uses past travel info, I contribute to Google and I review, maybe it uses that. There's Gmail content that Gmail has, and now Facebook's is into WhatsApp, Instagram interactions, right? Now this, in this context, I had to go back to the first slide and say, when I said data is a new oil, right? Basically, I am dropping cookies left, right, center when I travel. When I do anything on the internet, I'm always dropping some content for somebody to track, for somebody to observe, for somebody to do a cohort, somebody to build clusters, somebody to do analysis. I am out there and somebody is tracking me, right? Yeah.
All of this is English use, right? Whatever you post and all that.
It's English, yeah, so it's English, right?
Still isn't the most used language.
So I'll talk about it as well. So one of the uses is NLP itself, right? So how do you use NLP to kind of, because same thing in French, I'm sure there's similar behaviors around it. So if you look at buying behavior, it's mostly clustered. So if you look at Flipkart, it had a very strong Bangalore connect, right? So if you look at Snapdeal, it had a very strong Gurgaon connect when they first started. So most of consumer behavior is something called demand density. So you kind of establish a demand density around a specific phase and then you kind of slowly expand. So given that, I think given consumer behavior purchases are very, very similar in that demand density, so it wouldn't matter so much is my belief. But then look at it, right? So it's pretty simple to say, hey, you know what, Hari, I know who you are, right? And I know what you'd value. And hence I'm going to make your decision easy for you, right? Because there are so many hotels in Paris, right? There's so many hotels in Paris. How do you go about, so there's a beautiful German proverb that says, qual der Wahl. How many of you can speak German? Anybody at all? Okay, I'm alone, so I can say whatever I want to say. So just checking. But qual is basically pain, and vol is just choice. There's a pain of choice, right? So there are beautiful TED Talks by Sheena Iyengar where she speaks about the overall paradox of choice, right? So there's so much of an overload, and all of you take decisions day in and day out, and I'm sure you kind of empathize how painful it is to keep taking decisions, right? But then somebody throws 1,000 hotels at you, you have to decide. Somebody throws 10 flight options that you have to decide. How do you make that process simpler? How do you make that process interesting? How do you make it delightful, finally? Say, hey, you know what? I know who you are. I think you would like this the best. Go with my recommendation, right? That for me is the biggest power of ML, AI, deep learning, whatever you want to call. End of the day, can you make that choice for the customer a seamless process? Something very easy, very intuitive, and at the same time, the post-purchase behavior, right? It cannot be that you threw something and then he's going to hate you for it, right? That's what a lot of travel websites, if you keep going back, any recommendation engine is about how relevant the recommendation was and how the post-purchase behavior was equivalent to the relevance of recommendation, right? So that is what we're trying to solve. So if you look at it, nutshell, what are we trying to do? How do you guys even use AI ML in your own particular respective fields? We're trying to see, hey, can we reduce the choice paradox and make it easy for folks, right? So the rest of the stuff I'm going to talk about is various implications, various ways that we use. Before that, why is travel a great place to do ML, right? It's personal. End of the day, it's your personal preference. Somebody likes culture, somebody likes leisure, somebody likes adventure, right? Something that is very core to a persona. And then you choose and you travel, number one. Two, it's very experience-led. So what you do here, for example, how the stalls were, how the coffee was, everything is so experience-led in travel that it fundamentally lends itself to personalization. And the moment you talk about personalization, it means cohorts, it means clusters, it means how do you use big data to kind of ensure that there is a very strong coefficients of relevance. UGC content, that's what you spoke about, right? So you spoke about, is it one particular language, right? But in travel, if you see, reviews are there written in multiple languages, right? So there's a lot of user-generated content, right? Sorry. That kind of helps itself again to big data. So text parsing, be it NLP, how do you use that content and how do you build relevance in that content? So beautifully, if you see, if you go to any e-com website right now, they'll say most helpful review. It not necessarily is the most recent review, but they start with the most helpful review. There's some bit of UGC content that they're kind of curating to build relevance again. And if you look at travel as one of the earliest e-com verticals, while we might think it's still, or I like to believe it's still very monolithic in its approach, but one of the first verticals to go e-com was travel. So flights, right? So all of this, Flipkart, Amazon are still pretty new in terms of the e-com vertical moving into tech. Travel has been there for quite a while, which means there's so much data. There's so much data that it resides, that can be used to improve the overall experience of the user. So that's why we believe travel is an ideal vertical to use such technologies. So it's a very funny slide. I don't know if it's in the right audience, but then I kind of like to, right? But so how many of you have seen such memes? They're quite kind of popular. So what people think, what society thinks, I'm working with robots and trying to kind of make the next big change. What my friends think is I'm kind of socializing with robots. My parents think I'm doing big data servers kind of stuff. My friends think I'm solving complicated mathematical equations. I'm actually running a very simple SVM, right? Nothing else. That's all I'm doing to get, even whatever I'm going to talk about is nothing fancy. If you actually break it down, it's a simple SVM or somewhere some kind of clustering, some kind of logistical regression that we're doing to train and then try and see if that trained data sets, supervised learning, can help ourselves, right? So this is my personal view on how I look at ML, right? Is that always data has a better idea, right? So I think it's very easy to be perceptually driven in any meetings, any decision making, right? But then if you're able and you believe that data has a better idea and then you approach it from that worldview, you will be surprised 100 out of 100 times data always has a better idea, right? Now, what really is needed, what kind of data is needed, how do you use the data is where we come in, right? But then if you're able to kind of take this worldview into your business, we strongly believe data kind of literally helps us solve problems at a very, very different level. And then suddenly there's a lot of conflict between business teams and tech teams. The manager is like, no, I understand tech. I have come from travel industry for so long. It always works like this. But then you kind of show data at him and he's like, oh, I didn't know this kind of works this way, right? So I don't know if this is relevant, but then I thought I'd just put this slide still because it's very easy to get carried away as to what you really need to do a solid ML kind of strategy. This is our belief. I think before data scientists come in, you need very strong statisticians to do this really well, right? And the reason for the need of a good statistician or statistics team is that you need clean data sets. What people fundamentally kind of leap and move forward is without clean data sets, any amount of ML, any amount of regressions, any amount of clustering, you're always doing on wrong data, right? And if you're not able to move out, the fringes and then look at the core set, your outputs can be very, very skewed. And fundamentally, if I tie this with my previous slide, right, of this, if my data set is not clear, I'm going to be just led into a tangential path where there's literally no value, right? So statisticians bring in very strong hypothesis, right, null hypothesis. They come almost from a rigor of research, right? That is very critical before you move into data scientists as a team. So getting the data set clear, getting your hypothesis, null hypothesis clear is the first step towards actually any meaningful ML or AI. Then understanding, so many models out there, right? So, and it's just like technology. No, I was using Java, then I'm using Python, then I'm using Ruby on Rails. It's just nice to talk about, I'm using JavaScript, right, jQuery. It's the same, similar stuff. End of the day, whatever model you pick up, if your data is right, broadly you'll move forward. Obviously, the model will hit a limitation, right? So using SQL, and then you want to move to a Mongo, which is a NoSQL database. Obviously, Mongo has its own advantages compared to a SQL database, right? It's just that when do you hit that limit with that model? And then can you then look at a new model and then take it forward? So this comes third. And I think, so who is this kind of brought up kids? You realize how difficult is, right, supervised learning. It's very difficult. I have twins at home and it's so freaking difficult to get them to sit down and listen and then do, right? So in some sense, a lot of supervised learning is needed. People just think, oh, ML I've done super, will come, nothing will come out of it. Unless you sit down, keep going back, the statistician approach, cleaning data sets, testing your hypothesis, and then till the time that algorithm is really good, right? Till the point you start seeing automatic learnings happening, supervised learning people tend to kind of ignore, right? And if that's not going to work, again, the beauty about these things is there's always an answer, right? So every algorithm will throw you an answer to you. The answer can be fundamentally wrong if your process is not right. So we spend significant amount of time at PickYourTrail trying to get these basics right. So if you're picking up a problem, routing algorithms, you're picking up recommendation engines, we're looking at saying, hey, what is the hypothesis? By doing this, what do I expect to happen? Is it the time spent on the website will go up, the time to converts will come down, will my average ticket size go up? What is the hypothesis this particular problem is going to solve? And then do we have the enough data set to kind of look at what is the control and what is the output? So that's something that we kind of spend a lot of time on. And I think it's very critical to do these things to have anything significant in the ML space. And if you do this, and if you're able to record data, so this is basically an e-com slide I've kind of picked up. These are some of the variables e-com companies use to do very strong ML, right? So in terms of what are the returns, what is fake and fraud detection, what is the brand affinity, price affinity, what is the user profile here, the demographics of the user, right? Where is he ordering from? What is the demand for the particular order? How do you cluster? So a lot of large e-com companies in China, now what they do is they literally do a lot of almost Uberish kind of models where the delivery is a logistical startup by itself, right? So they have vans, they have big algorithmic complexes. How do you start stacking delivery in a way that helps your overall costs as well? So this is the next big step. So once you've kind of understood the overall process and rigor, capturing the right amount of data, what kind of data you want to capture so that you're able to have enough data to kind of start moving forward. So this brings us to the interesting part. So I think I've kind of set some context on how we look at ML, what's our personal view, how we approach ML at our company. These are some broad, so some I've kind of picked up from our own company, some I've kind of picked up from places of other travel companies as well to give you a good view. The first thing, like I said, is a recommendation engine, right? Very clearly, when you go to any travel or any e-com website, how do they realize what is, so the first example I showed you in some sense was the recommendation engine, right? What is that it's most suitable for you? The way we use it is, so we have a PickYourTrail recommended filter on our hotels page, on our flights, activities page. So that goes back to figuring out what are the various cohorts. So if you're a family, 2 adults, 2 kids kind of a companion, you start with something and then finally book something else, right? There's a diff in the itinerary composition right there. We give you an itinerary and then you book something else. Right from that, we use it to say, you know what, clusters like this, people who are traveling from Bombay at this point in time with these kind of age profiles, because we also get your passport details when you book. So we have your age profiles also to say, hey, you know what, this is what they would like. And there's also a loop of when you've gone and come back, the kind of rating you give for those particular properties. Hey, he seemed to have chosen this and he really liked it, which means the overall coefficient of customer happiness is very, very high. Then kind of adds in here. So our eventual goal is, can we start building proprietary knowledge in terms of how do Indians like their hotel rooms, right? Interestingly, if you look at it, you go to Switzerland, almost every hotel has no AC. Every hotel in Switzerland doesn't have an AC because of the government norms right there, right? Number one. Number two, 95% of hotels have twin rooms, right? If you're an Indian, AC, oh, I went outside but there's no AC. It's a big fundamental problem, social problem. Second, I went on my honeymoon, had twin beds. Again, bigger problem, right? How do we kind of use this Indian buying behavior and then start telling them when they're buying hotels in Switzerland, hey, you know what, it's going to happen, be prepared for it. So our eventual goal is, you look at TripAdvisor, you look at broadly global platforms, most of the reviews are very foreigner-led. It's not very Indian-led, right? And our tastes are very unique in terms of how we eat. For us, veg food is important, right? You have to kind of walk up to a pharmacy store, which has to be close by, and stuff like that. So can we use that intelligence to give you hotels? Because the hotel list is global, right? But then from the global plethora of hotels, how do I give you hotels that are closest to your match? And we break it down by geos. So a Tamil buying behavior is very different from a Punjabi buying behavior, right? So how do we use that kind of data to kind of again personalize it for you so that your overall choice paradox kind of comes down phenomenally? That's one example. The next is price predictions. So this is a very interesting app called Hopper, right? Hoppr. You should try it out, especially if you travel. They have a phenomenal price prediction algorithm at the back end, right? So this is the deepest, personally we kind of adore this company a lot because this is one of the best companies out there to have done very strong predictive pricing, right? What they do is, given a particular choice, right, they give you very strong predictive analytics of what is the price. What is the price across a 4-month calendar, right? So currently there are fare calendars that airlines publish. When you do a round trip search, make me a little pop saying, hey, you know what, choose these dates, it's cheaper, right? It's basically a fare calendar that they search. But Hopper uses user data. Hopper uses also predictive analytics to figure out, hey, what is the price fluctuation forecasting going to be like, right? And then they kind of tell you, if you're actually going to watch this trip, they say you should wait for a better price, right? So they're very strong in their models that they're able to go out, stick their neck out and say, you know what, if you're going in a very busy sector like New York to San Francisco, you're better off waiting for a price for these dates, right? And the price will dip at least by $40, right? This is insane. The kind of stuff that they do to actually forecast using both user behavior and strong modeling to say, hey, where is the price dipping? Where is it going to come up, right? That's very, very good. And they have the entire prediction, you know, what's going to happen over the next 5 days, what's going to happen over the next, you know, 1 more week after, 1 month after. So 1 day before you travel, what's going to happen to the price? 1 month before, what's going to happen, right? Over the next 5 days, what's going to happen? That helps you decide, especially when you're doing such flights and you're looking at a very heavy price, you want to save the additional $40, $100, very, very useful. And they've done phenomenally well, right? So this is again core, you know, modeling and data sets used to predict price. The next is travel assistant. So this is very interesting. I don't know, is there internet? No, okay. So I'd love to show you a link where we built a bot. Basically, the bot kind of understands your preferences and then throws the next question to, basically, we tried to overcome the need for somebody to collect a lead form. How do we kind of put a bot to the overall lead form? And depending on your answer, the kind of questions continue to morph and then give you more relevant questions in the follow-ups, right? So again, this is very, very significantly being used, right, by travel companies. This screenshot is from Kayak, right? So Kayak's like, hey, I could fly from London to San Francisco, right? So what is, again, a price prediction saying what is the rough price, right? And then when do you want to come back? And then they're actually able to give you. So on the app, you can actually, or on the chatbot, you can actually book a hotel or book a particular flight without having to even go search, right? And if you look at it, currently, the trend is about 73% of people are comfortable in the US chatting with somebody than speaking on the phone or browsing, right? So if you're able to build such kind of models into your mobile, and with processes becoming faster, overall mobile capability is increasing, it's only going to kind of exponentially grow these markets, where you're able to complete transactions without having to worry about what's going to come. And here recommendation is so key, because the overall screen space is so limited, right? You just can't keep swiping on hotel options, right? What's your past purchase of hotels? Where are you traveling? Is it business? Is it leisure? Then can I recommend hotels which is closest so that you'll complete the transaction there? So the next big thing we believe it will work is travel assistance itself. UX personalization. So this particular slide is from Flipkart, right? And I'm sure everybody would have seen, right? So when everybody logs in, beautiful also is Facebook also. I don't know, I can never understand my mom's Facebook feed. It's just about gardening and some bhakti songs and whatnot. And my Facebook feed is completely different. So in some sense, how do you kind of use the timeline and the feed and personalize it again to increase engagement, again to increase time spent, and thereby getting your average lifetime value from the user is much, much higher. It goes back to relevance and overall recommendations by itself. And in places like very impulse purchases, like e-com, right? This can significantly change. Right? It's tomorrow opening Myntra, and then you see a quick, shoe kind of ad, 30% off for you. You just buy it, right? Suddenly, it's getting you to buy something for about $1,000 just because the first thing you saw when you powered the app up was something you liked, right? And imagine now if they're reading your WhatsApp conversations, if they're reading your Instagram likes, and then you've spoken to somebody about something, and then boom, it's there. You'll just be like, okay, I'm happy, just here. Because again, it reduces the choice overload, right? Now with increasingly lesser attention spans that we are going through, the closest time to decision will be the biggest businesses, right? So if you can get somebody to decide in a split second, then he's going to pay you money always, right? So this is a huge, and Flipkart, so this is data that they had shared, saying 70% clicks is what it helps them through recommendation, increase in clicks by itself. And how they do it is again using cohorts. So there are multiple ways, I'll kind of touch about it very limitedly, but broadly everything is in some kind of clustering that starts with, right? So how do you build a cluster? And then if you're using SVM, then it's about finding the right hyperplanes and then separating the clusters so that you're able to, kind of target the right cluster. Customer support. So it's personally very happy moment for us, because if you look at it, we do something called a shadow travel. Right? So basically our goal is, if you go with Make My Trip or Yatra or wherever, they'll put you in a bus with 40 people. The biggest advantage is you have somebody as a guide with you all the time. Right? So you can always walk up to the guy and keep asking questions. When is tomorrow? What is happening next? Hey, I want to go here. Can you help me with this? Right? But in our model, it's built for free independent travelers, which are smaller groups, right? A family taking off, a couple taking off, right? But at the same time, how do you give them that experience of somebody traveling with you? Right? Somebody saying, I'm watching you over, something goes wrong, we're always there. That's the concept of shadow traveling that we do with our customers, right? And what we have seen over the last 4 years is 72% of the pings when people are on trip, right, is basically general inquiries. Hey, what time is my train tomorrow? Hey, can I go there and also take this boat? No, actually, I want to go to Indian veg restaurant. Where is it here? They're very, very general pings, right? Now, we have kind of built, over the last 4 years, you understood by region. In Europe, what are the pings? In New Zealand, for example, a lot of self-drive. So when people drive in New Zealand, hey, I'm sure where's the next petrol pump, right? Stuff like that. They just want to try and understand, hey, I'm on this way, is there any other thing I can do because I have 2 hours time now? Can we use tech to kind of delight customers on trip, right? So simple stuff like if in Europe, there are always open tickets in Europe, in trains, right? So you can get up at 9 and then take the 10 a.m. train or 10:30 train or 11:30 train, right? What if when you get up in the morning, hey, ABC, these are next 3 day timings for you, and looks like from your past interactions, you'd love this particular train because it's free Wi-Fi, right? Fundamentally, what we're trying to solve is, can customer support be fundamentally automated through just understanding of customer preference? And I'm not saying 100%, right? But 80% of the time, if some kind of bots can pick up and answer those questions, the amount of savings and amount of the kind of time to response, right? So currently our time to respond is about, I think, close to about 3.5 minutes, right? But for 70% of the time, if I can do an instant response, the overall customer happiness just goes up, which means my overall, their LTV goes up, their ability to recommend us goes up, our overall repeat referral cohort goes up. So this is another area where we think AI/ML can help us a lot. This is a very interesting exercise that I got to know through TripAdvisor, right? So it's very beautiful. So what people do in TripAdvisor is when you go search for a hotel, you want to look for user photos. So there's always a photo which is uploaded by the hotel, but nobody trusts it. And then they say, there are user photos, I want to see them, right? And this is what they were actually showing initially, right? Some random, whichever user will click, they just keep showing some photos, some lizard. Like, imagine looking for a hotel photo, these are the photos that come up. One's a restroom, one I think is a fridge, some random stuff, right? And then all they did was some bit of machine learning to say, hey, you know what, can I understand images better, right? It's the same user photos, right? I've not done anything significantly different, but I've used machine learning to say, can I read images better and then show relevant photos? Now it fundamentally changed the experience for you, right? You're going into TripAdvisor, you're looking at user photos, and then you're seeing this instead of this. Look at the amount of transactions that will flow through the platform, right? The amount of transaction, the amount of trust you'll have on TripAdvisor, right? Of pulling in relevant information and showing it to you. Now imagine the same thing. This could be for a honeymooner, this could be for a family. The overall experience itself could be very, very different, right? And this is like insane because there's so many users day in and day out and just uploading data left, right, center. How do you even make sense of the data to build something which is significant value for the end user? So that's again a huge piece in those content curation. This again is your point on, you know, how to use text, right? Is text very important? So huge, we use it personally in terms of NLP. There are customers who are talking about, who are leaving reviews about a particular experience. Can we start doing sentiment analysis on top of that data to start pulling out and aggregating reviews, right? Without somebody having to, so instead of me asking you, okay, how do you rate a Uber driver today? And then instead of just putting a text box saying, how do you feel about a ride, right? Chances are you'll mostly type something out, right? Hey, no, I was very unhappy, it was very, bad driver, whatever. Now then if I just use that text to do a sentiment analysis and then start without, basically you want the same thing, end of the day, but you won't give this data this way. If I come and ask you, how do you rate location, you'll be like, what's happening? Very difficult answers, but then give you a free flow text box and you just type whatever you want to type. How do you feel about it? And you quickly type something, I'm able to use the data, try and do some algorithm on top of it, and then give you of something that's relevant to you, right? This is something that we continue to do because this hugely helps customers, but then this is what they want to share personally. This is actually the non-glamorous, but the most impactful side of machine learning, right? So because there are always people taking your card, swiping at a gas station, swiping at a parking spot, right, swiping at a hotel. It's very prevalent in the US, right? If you look at fraud detection, there's airlines, there's travel. So put together about 50% plus is e-com travel, right? So basically figuring out what kind of data, what kind of usage patterns, what is your average spend in the card, why is the spend very high, what time do you spend, what merchants do you spend on, huge opportunity, right? Juniper Networks did this research. So in terms of the overall fraud detection piece in travel, AI/ML is going to significantly help businesses. So Kayak claims that it saved almost 30% of chargebacks by using AI and ML. So because they just go, somebody uses the card and they realize it's a fraud transaction and then they stop the transaction. So if some of you have done high volume ticket purchases online in India right now, banks have started doing it, right? Especially Citibank, right? HDFC is doing IVRs, but Citibank has a very intelligent Amex. Both of them have very strong risk and desks, right? Where they flag an instant purchase and say, hey, this particular transaction is good, and they don't call you. They say 1 for yes, SMS, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Very simple interaction, it gets done, right? So this again is a huge space in travel where AI/ML has helped us. I think I'm done. I have about 3 minutes so for questions. So yes.
Yeah. So, Hari, on the price prediction.
Yep.
I get into a scenario where I get into the website, okay, I click the room and I check the price, and I get into the other aspects of the rooms, okay.
It happens, right? All the time it happens. So you look at their you know, urban legends on how Amazon charges differently for iOS and Android. Uber, there's a charging differently. And I think end of the day, they're going to look at you as an LTV. What is your lifetime value? End of the day, right? Will this guy pay 10 rupees more? If he has an iPhone, if he's paid 20,000 rupees more, he won't mind paying 10 rupees more. Right? And it's not wrong. It's not wrong, right? We walk into Pothys, the guy is sizing you up. என்ன வாங்குவாங்களா மாட்டாங்களா சும்மா போட தூக்கி போடுவாங்களா இல்லை வாங்குவாங்க. So everybody is trying to size you up when you want to buy something, right? It's just that when it's being done by machines, we feel, oh, it's not fair. It is fair. Everybody's been doing it to you day in and day out, right? So it's nothing wrong. I think obviously very difficult to kind of. It's some part of learning, right? So obviously it's very difficult to define. Our personal belief is AI is far, far away, right? End of the day, we're doing is some bit of ML, right? Some bit of machine supervised learning is what you're doing, right? So that is basis some inputs, your behavior in the past, how have you bought, last time when I showed you a hotel at this particular price, did you buy? End of the day, make me doesn't lose you. If make me is going to continuously increase and try and exploit a desperation, and you go book it in Goibibo, then he's going to like you for it. So he's going to try and understand last time did he complete the purchase, he didn't complete the purchase. So then what is the threshold? And that's where the beauty of algorithms come in, right? Because solving for us manually is very difficult, right? But then you put an algorithm on top of it, and as long as the algorithm learns on itself and is able to push that threshold, then it's interesting.
But what is the quantity of data when it was like I seldom use this website. For example, if I'm a first time user, without doing any prediction, I will probably do a different variant prices.
Correct, but then I think what you kind of miss is this so much of dropped already, right? When you comment on somebody's Facebook wall, when you comment on somebody's Instagram post, it is metadata at some level, right? It is your overall browser history, right? Which kind of helps you determine what these prices have to be.
We get some fare for a particular sector, but when it goes to the airline's website, it is lesser than what is displayed in that particular. I mean, taken for a like the Uber or Ola.
That's a very simple channel problem. So it's not a tech problem. Airlines want you to buy on their purchase because they're cutting the commission they're giving to the OTA and saying please come and buy on my website. That's all. So
what is the objective? I think
the objective is save commissions. If he's paying the OTA 20% commission, he's saying come buy from my website. The 10% I'll pass back to you. Right, and the OTA will not charge you for it. So if you look at Emirates, for example, they're not listed on any OTAs predominantly. And Emirates, their website price is different from the call center price. It's not tech, but it's just purely channel that they've taken. Say, I'm putting somebody there. It's a new channel cost of distribution, so I'll charge you higher.
Probably I have a connecting question to Arun. You talked about increasing fare prices the moment you kind of showing interest continuously in a particular sector or a particular hotel. Probably the post-book search that you do maybe on the second day or after a while, you'll realize that the price have hiked up a little bit. Probably that's because of assessing user behavior, right? So a flip side question. So how do you kind of beat that? Like for example, as a consumer, that's negative for me, right? So I really don't want to kind of pay higher when I know that like 1 hour back the price was lower, and I know that the system is actually kind of trying to upsell, knowing that I'm desperate to go for a vacation or probably buy that flight ticket. So how do you, is there a way to kind of, cheat that system?
So it's predominantly, it's a lemons problem, right? Classically, even if you want to try and be the good guy in the game, the lemons, so perception is widespread. So even if naturally the price increases, you're going to kind of attribute it to saying, hey, I was desperate, so they increase the price.
Yeah.
Very difficult to kind of, the only thing I tell my team, if you decide to travel, book the flight.
Right.
Summa, we'll look at it today, tomorrow, nothing. By the time we look at today, tomorrow, gone. Right? So we book at least 8-9 months in advance. It's okay. Worst case, you lose that money. But then the choice, instantly making the choice is always beneficial in the long run. Right. And it's one less decision to make tomorrow. Okay. Right? So thereby if you can improve relevance in some sense, can you make the choice faster?
Yeah, okay. Another question is, I just checked out your website. So when you do you have an option to start planning, right? So your options start from 3 to 5 days. So I mean, is there a rationale behind it? Because
yes.
I'm looking at a 2-day vacation next month. So I'm, like wondering why I don't get
There's some bit of, so obviously I think when more people like you come into the website, that's going to change to 2, okay. Right? But then broadly, so it depends on regions. So if you check for Southeast Asia, it'll be 3 to 5. But you check for Europe, it'll start with 6 to 8. Okay. You check for ANZ, it'll start with 10 to 12. So use data to say, hey, what's the average duration people are looking for to go to these places, right? And increasingly as flight connectivity improves, right? Your ability to take quick, shorter breaks will be much, much higher. And again, that's the beauty of putting in algorithms, right? Because otherwise somebody has to make these decisions. Right. Where should it start? But if you put an algorithm, it'll take care. Hey, so much of threshold has come in. I think the overall correlation coefficient has gone up. So you can just start changing all those things. So that's the power.
Thanks. You were talking about taking decisions, how Flipkart is making me to buy something. Whereas travel is something very different, right? So how do you make the consumer take that decision there and there? That split second of
So
because
I think
it's a long planning
like
process.
I said, it's an emotional purchase, so it can't be a split second. That's a very impulse purchase. It works, but this being an emotional purchase, what we're trying to see is if I can give you all the relevant info. People hop about 40 sites before they put together a plan and book something, right? So if you can kind of stop that effort you need in one place with trust, then we have seen, right, from the time when we didn't have a product to now when we have a product, our overall closure cycles, right, from a lead to a closure have dipped by 33%, right? So what used to be a 10 day has become 7 days. What used to be a 5 days has become 4 days, right? So there is people, because they trust, there's convenience, simple stuff like if you're doing a vacation with a travel agent, he's shut after 8 p.m. So you can't even make the purchase decision. But with us, you're available 24/7. So stuff like that kind of helps. And the overall process till the time, so basically it's attention, interest, desire and action, right? We're talking about action. Attention, interest, desire. How do I make tech to help you realize, you know what, I give you the right itinerary, I give you the right content, create the desire, and then you want to choose a hotel, it should be easy. So it's a kind of a cumulative emotion that you have built. Okay, they're good guys, trustable, can just book.
So what is the trend you see? How long does it take from attention to action?
So for us, like I said, our average lead to conversion is about, overall we look at all markets, it's about 8 to 10 days is what it takes from a lead to convert. But we've had, like yesterday, somebody came in at 11:40 and booked at about 12:10, a lakh and 40,000, right? So it's just about what do they perceive value, and also it's a function of user adoption. If you're used to buying high ticket items online, then your comfort level of buying something high ticket is also higher.
Hari, what about the incognito browsing? So will it help?
Yeah, so yes, if you look at, so one of my slides, the hotel was not first because of incognito. Incognito takes away cookies and overall, and that's one thing phenomenal about Apple because they've just built their pillar saying security is most important for us, right? So I think yes, it surely helps.
Thank you.
I have one question, Scott. I understand your entire model works based on machine learning or basically kind of skewing
Algorithms.
data, skewing data which is all around the web, right? So how does your revenue model work?
So predominantly we charge customers 2%, roughly anywhere between 0.5 to 2% on as a planning and concierge fee. Everything else is an affiliate model. So we are agnostic to whatever hotel you choose, but whichever hotel you choose, our partners pay as a commission. So it's a standard e-com model where you list on Amazon, and when somebody buys on Amazon, you pay Amazon certain cut, right? So it's a standard affiliate revenue sharing kind of model that we work with our partners. So it keeps happening, so it's a never-ending battle. They get better at technology, then we again go back and look at better technology. So it's a never-ending problem. You have to keep looking at traffic, some spike from somewhere, suddenly look at why that spike came in, right? Obviously they can use some amount of technology, but the problem is nowadays they're so mature, right? Your IP, demasking, everything is so advanced. There's a certain amount of human intelligence needed. So the way Google, for example, uploads or approves their ads, right? Facebook and Google, again, they have done some machine learning models to look at what percentage of text is there in the ad and stuff. But there can be profanity in the text, there could be obscenity in the images, right? It still requires some bit of supervised learning again there to say, hey, can I pass this ad or not, right? Similarly, we kind of use similar models to say, look at traffic and spikes and then see if you have to stop them.
Yeah, thank you, Hari.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, it's already time up. Okay, last question.
Yeah. The thing is for a consumer who is a layman, okay, he might not know what is happening in the background,
Correct.
right? So for him, first is the cost, second is the pictures, and third is the probably the comments, the previous users' comments. But how do we ensure, from the consumer perspective, whether the comments is fake or genuine? Because this is what we have seen in Flipkart, Amazon, wherever that we go. But there are some fake comments. How do you validate that?
Oh, that's very strong NLP that we use, right? Because for example, in Flipkart, if you say, there'll be comments like, I bought on Flipkart, it's the best possible website. Boom, it cannot be shown, right? Because you're going to read that text, the machine's going to read the text and say, there's nothing, no sentiment of, if you buy something and genuinely type about something, the sentiment analysis score is very different. The kind of words you use, the kind of text you use, very different from buy from Flipkart, Flipkart is the best. Don't buy from Amazon, Amazon is the worst, right? So it's very easy. That's where machines come in phenomenally, right? And then that's why if you see the comments are most helpful. And most helpful, they've also added interactions like you upvote, downvote. Again, it's an interaction of, what kind of works. So if you look at Facebook also on our page, we actually, when we started Facebook, used to list all our reviews chronologically. Now they've also put an algorithm saying most helpful. So whatever customers have come and spent some time on that particular review, right? Facebook wants to kind of show that review first.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, all of you. Had a great time.
Thank you, Hari. It was a great energy session, I think. I request Panchi to hand over a memento to Hari. Now for your feedback. Next. Next. Next question. Last question.